All right, guys. I'm finally back with this one now. This is Leon inspired P320 assembly. I'm stoked to have this one done. As most of y'all already know, I decided to do this one. I was going to do different options of like allowing you to pick. Did you want the version with the iron sight and the regular mag and the regular muzzle brake, or the version with the red dot and the upgraded muzzle brake and the extended mag and blah blah blah? And by the time I got done with all the variation, I was like, you know what, we're going to do it all in one so that it can be swapped between either version or whatever you want to do. So we've got our slide, we have our frame. I still have yet to move this monitor so I can see on monitor what I'm doing, so forgive me. So there's the extended mag and the normal mag for it. And we have a whole, this is actually a really easy assembly. Let's see. Got our first muzzle brake. Got our left and right grips. So this is our two different muzzle brakes. One's the square and then one's like the upgraded version there. And you can swap those out with a screw through the bottom of the front of the slide that comes up, and it'll attach both of those. We have our little red dot, and there is also a lens somewhere. Oh, here we go. There's a lens for the red dot. What you have to make sure is, you know, I've had people before say I didn't get a lens, but I got a piece of cardboard. This is protective film on both sides, so we'll just peel that back before we glue the lens in here. But let me set that off to the side. We have our orange tip. There'll actually be two orange tips in this, one to fit either one of the muzzle brakes because they are both different on the front. So, but right now I only have one in here. And like normal, I'm not going to glue mine on for this video because I'm going to be painting mine. But I will be putting mine on there before I do anything with it. We have our slide lock. That's the kind of thing about the P320 is it's a you've got left or right hand side for the slide lock. So if you're left-handed, you have left-handed slide and blah blah blah. So slide lock. We have our rear iron sight and our red dot and our rear iron sight are interchangeable, and they are connected with the magnets, the bigger magnets I use in most of my kits. So you can have the red dot on, or you can pull the red dot off easily and put the rear iron sight on. So we'll set that off. This is our slide spring guide rod. Our trigger, if I don't throw it across everywhere. So there's our trigger. This is going to be our mag release that goes in a little hole here, and that's, well, how we release the mag, you know. So that, you know, mag release, kind of self-explanatory there. Sorry guys, I've had way too much coffee today and way too much stuff going on. This is what would normally be the breakdown lever. On these guns, you would normally flip this lever down and it would release the barrel. Of course, in this setup, to make things slide function, all that stuff, we actually have a set screw that goes into this side that goes through and attaches the barrel to the frame once we get to that point. But so that's just, you know, do with what you may right there. Then we have our little front iron sight here that will go into our little groove here on the front of the slide. and it just gets glued on like that. And still a lot of people ask me, you know, like that could have been included as part of the print. But again, paint separate, when you put it on, it maintains those seam lines really nice that exist there. Normally with those little faint seam lines, when you paint, you have a tendency to fill in those seam lines, and I don't like that. If there's like a seam there originally, that's what I want to keep, you know, there. So before we get started, you can use thick super glue or a 2-part CA glue with an activator. Basically, it's thick, slow setting super glue that uses an activator to instantly set it. This is a brand that I've been using forever, and I now actually am able to carry this on my website. So if you guys need some, I have it on there. You can pick some up at the same time, but you will need a couple little tiny Allens. One's a 1.5 millimeter, and I forget the size of the other one, which it's a standard. It's a 440 set screw. Basically, I just use these little sets, and it's just two different Allens here that I'm using. Well, actually, I'm being cheesy and using Torx bits because I've lost all my Allens, but it's neither here nor there. Then let's get into our back. This is our slide spring for our slide function. Now be careful because there's two little springs in here. Let me get them out. There's our trigger spring, which is the normal medium size spring that comes in a lot of my stuff. And then we have the two little ones, and be careful of those. One of those is going to be for the slide lock, and one is going to be for the mag release. So just set those off to the side and be careful, you know, they'll get tangled together and stuff. Just make sure you don't shoot one off somewhere and you can't find it. So other than that, this is all the screws. There's our two set screws. Now, you may not always have a black one in your set. It's just my supplier was out of the size that the length that I need, except for in black. So that's what they had to send me. So we have our two set screws. We have a 10 millimeter Phillips. That is what holds our muzzle brakes onto the front. And then we have our 4 Allen screws that hold the grips on. They're just button Allens. So when I said you only need 2 Allen wrenches, I was wrong. You actually need 3, one for the button Allens and stuff. Where do I want to start? I guess we can start with the slide. I'll go ahead and glue the front side on. And let me get a little bit of glue here. Get my top off my activator. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little bead on this. And some of y'all will notice I actually opened a brand new bottle of glue. Normally I'm always opening up a janky bottle that I've been using for a while, and it's dried shut and all that good stuff. So I'm just going to set that in there. Make sure that it's pressed down. I put a little too much glue, and that it's dadgummit centered in my slide the way I want it, and then hit it with a little activator. There we go. All right, so that's set on there. So now what we're going to do is we'll go ahead and put our magnets in before we get too far into this, because you can screw this up, and you don't want to do that, of course. There's 3 magnets, and I'm going to show you the way I do this so that you don't accidentally glue magnets into the wrong polarity, so things are pushing apart instead of attracting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of these magnets off so they only have 2 left. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a marker, and I'm going to put a mark on both sides of these magnets that are together. The reason I do that is because when I glue these in, if I just keep in my brain, which I don't retain things too well sometimes, is I want the marker to go to the inside, the marked color to go to the inside. So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to go ahead and put the magnet into the slide. So I'm just going to put a glob of glue Not too much, which I probably did too much there, because when you push this in, it will squeeze out. Now, I just take this magnet and push the other one off and set it off to the side. And I probably just glued that to my table because I smeared a little glue out. But anyways, so there's our magnet in there. And we're just going to let that dry. All right, so now, like, I can take my red dot and flip it over. And when I put glue in here, as long as I put that marker where I put the marker in, we're good to go on polarity. So I'm going to put another little dot, which will probably be too much of a dot. Yeah, I always either do too much or too little. So see, there's like a little dot in there. So now I'm going to put the red side in and push that in. Make sure that it sets flat, not cocked in there, because if it's cocked, you know, if it's cocked in there, it's not going to set flush against this one. So I'm going to spray that. And now when I drop that on, I have a red sight or the red dot on there. And the way this recesses in there, it's not going to get kicked back. It's not going to get kicked forward. It pulls off to the side. I would say, pay attention that you don't knock this off, because you can rock it to the side, but it holds on there, very, very nicely. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this other magnet and I'm going to drop it on there. Okay, and then I'm going to take my marker again and I'm going to mark the side that I want to go in towards the inside of the part. Let that marker dry for a second, and then I'm just going to push that off. So now I know if I glue this in with the marker facing in, I'll have my polarity correct. So I'm going to get in here and probably put a little too much glue like I always do. And I'm going to put that facing inward and push that in and make sure that it's flat. Okay, so now we have the rear sight, the rear iron sight, or we can pop that off and we can pop our red dot on. So now those are quick exchangeable things there. So, all right, so the next thing we want to do is we'll grab our slide spring, guide rod, and we'll grab our barrel. What we're going to do is we're going to take our barrel just like this and set it down in the opening and let it lay down in there. We're going to take our fingers and we're going to pull our spring back so that we can put it through that hole just like this. And that's how it sets in there. Okay. And you can, of course, take this rod back out if you need to or want to or whatever. This is fully disassembled. The only thing you can, of course, disassemble stuff you glue together, but basically everything disassembles other than like the side breakdown lever, the front sight, and of course the magnets and stuff. So right now we could go ahead and put the slide on. We're not going to yet because we need to put the trigger and the slide lock and stuff in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to get this spring. That's our trigger spring. We need one of the little springs, and we will need the longer of the two set screws. Okay, so what I do here is I find the set screw or the Allen that actually fits. We're going to be working with this hole back here where the trigger's at. So to cut the threads, I just line it up, and what I'm looking at is I'm trying to make sure that I'm 90 degrees to the body this way, just about a half a turn. I turn it again and look. Turn it again and look. That way I make sure that I start cutting and I'm going in straight. So just make sure that's 90 degrees from a couple different angles. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to screw this in until it starts popping through on the inside. And then I'm just going to back it up to where it's setting flush in there. All right. So what I want to do is I'm going to take now if you notice there's two holes in here. Now the reason there's two holes is Depending if you're left or right, because since this is, you know, of course, a 3D printed part, it is very stout, but there can be some flex to it. What we want to do is we want to put the spring on the opposite side of what, oh, well, actually, I guess it wouldn't be. If you are right-handed, put the spring on the right side. If you're left-handed, put the spring on the left side. And I'll explain more about why when we get this together. Basically, we're just going to stick that in there, and I'm right-handed, of course, so I'm just going to put it on the right side. These two holes right here go, this screw goes through that. So what I'm going to do is, and this spring just pushes up against that wall. So let me just actually, and if you spin the springs counterclockwise, it causes them to shrink as you're trying to put them in a hole, and it makes it easier for the springs to go in. If you try to do clockwise, it expands the diameter of the spring and you can't get it to go in the hole. But you can go counterclockwise and spin a few times and it'll kind of clean out the hole a little bit. So I'm actually just going to take this, make sure the spring is against that wall and push that forward and push this down, and it kind of sets. Now I'm going to hold a little tension on this, and I'm going to screw this screw in until it's just inside this first arm. I don't want it protruding into the center because we still have to put our trigger in there. So I'm going to screw this in, and you'll have to pull forward like I'm pulling this way just to get the holes to line up. If you're screwing and you feel too much tension, you're probably not hitting the hole and you're hitting the wall. But if you look down in there now, I'm trying to find a better way for you guys to see. So the screw's starting to protrude through there. Let me turn around, make sure my autofocus is actually focusing for you guys. Okay, it is. We're good. All right. So we're in there. Now, before I go for the reason we put the spring on the opposite side is if we push up and lock the slide, we're going to release this side. Well, just because there's a little flex in there, and I haven't ran across it yet, but I just wanted to make sure you're not pressing down on this side. Well, there is spring tension from the slide trying to push forward. So having the spring over here will always guarantee that this side comes down evenly with this side. If you put it over here, if there is any flex, you could pull down and this arm could still be up hitting your slide. So it's just one of those things that, so that's only in one hole, but that's all that piece does right there. It just raises up a little bit. All right, so next thing we want to do is we want to take our trigger, and you can do this one of two ways. I've just found it's easier. If you notice, there's a hole right there in the trigger, and there's a hole in the frame down here. So all I'm going to do is try to hold my mouth just right and start screwing in, and I hit the body. So I'm going to back up just a little bit. I'm still looking for the hole. I'm going to leave that even. Yep. Hard to do holding this out for you guys while I'm trying to find this hole. Hang on. Raise up the hole. It's right there. One of the guides that you can, there we go. One of the guides you can kind of use is the trigger will go down further than the frame. It'll go down inside further than the frame. So now that that's in there, I'm just going to screw this in, and don't get screw happy. Just keep going until you feel it to kind of just barely stop, because you don't want to screw too much and cause a bulge or anything. So there, we're in. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, and you can put it in the trigger first or the body first. And I'm just going to take shear wheel here, and shouldn't have cut all my fingernails off. I was doing brakes on my truck and got very, very dirty hands. And I had to cut my fingernails to try to clean them up a little bit. Well, that didn't quite go. If you notice, it didn't quite go the way I had planned. But you can just kind of push it up into the hole. Get your butt in there. Get your butt in there. There we go. Once it's in, then the spring is straight across like it should be. And that's it. That's literally it to assemble that. So we have our spring-loaded slide lock. We have our spring-loaded trigger. So what we can do now is take our black. Well, I don't want to say black because they're not always going to be black. They'll be silver. The last of the set screws, the shorter of the two. And we're going to go into this hole right here. Whoa now. And I'm going to look 90 degrees, make sure I'm starting straight. And you can see down in here when it starts coming through. Okay, it just started coming through, so I'm going to back up until it's back down into the hole. And actually, before we put the slide on, I'm just going to say let's put the mag release in, just because it's easier to see. You can look at the front, the top and bottom if you want. We're going to take this other little spring and we're going to put it in the bottom of the mag release. Now, if you notice, let me flip this over, that there's a square in the mag release and there's a square cutout. That's what we're going for. Before we put the spring in, if you want to put that in and you want to test, like that just clicked in. So what you can do is take you something and push from the back side. You may just have to clear that out a bit. The seat down in there is basically what may have to be cleared out. There we go. So you can get to it and pop it from the back, and I just popped it out, and there. Now the path is clear, and that's why I wanted to make sure we did that before we put the spring in there. It kind of still has a little catch, so I'm just going to reach in here and pop it again. I'm going to pop it back and forth. We just want to make sure that moves nice and free, because we don't need that getting hung up like when we push in the mag release, it getting hung down in there. So what we're going to do is now we'll take our mag release and we're going to put it right in there and we're going to push it in. Now it will sit there and just like that. It won't stay in. What keeps these mag releases in is our grip. So we're just going to go ahead and put our left-handed grip on there and grab two of the button heads. And I'm going to drop one on there. I'm going to grab my bigger Allen and I'm going to screw that dude in there. You don't have to screw them in like super tight. They don't go in far at all, because if they go in too far, they're going to protrude through our into our mag well, which is what we don't want. And if we want to, we can go ahead and just put it on this right-handed side as well, because why not? We're doing it. A little boogie off of there. And forgive my shaky hands. I've been drinking way too much coffee today. I've already had like an energy drink, 2 or 3 bottles of water, like 3 or 4 cups of coffee, and I think it's only like 2 o'clock in the afternoon right now. So I get busy and set my coffee or my drink down somewhere between my office and the shop and stuff, and I get to looking for it, can't find it, so I'll go make another one, and then 10 minutes later I end up finding it and I drink it too. So anyways, so now what we're going to do is our slide. You can actually just set the slide on right about here. There's cutouts in the groove. We're going to set our slide on there, and we're just going to pull this all back until it's even there. Now we're just going to take our Allen and start screwing in. And if you feel it hit something, it's not going easy, just pull this slide back just a little bit, and I'll put more force on the barrel to go back and align the hole in there. So we're going to go ahead and screw that in till it just decides to stop. Don't screw too far, because do like I just did and make it kind of start bulging out behind that little hole there. But so now we've got our slide and our slide lock that operates like it should. Let's see if our mag release. So our mag's in there nice and tight. Hit the button, it comes out. And see, my button got stuck because I should have clicked it in and out a few more times. And that's what I'm saying. That's about the only thing that you may have to work it a little bit, just because we're printing these two things in two different orientations. And the bottom of where this little tiny foot goes in may decide that it doesn't want to, I may pull my slide back off. That might make life easier. And that's why I wasn't going to put the slide, or I didn't put the slide on it first, because it's easier to get to that. Let me just, and again, well, here's a perfect example of how easy this is to disassemble. Take this out and pop that forward, and then take our little doohickey and reach down in there and pop. And I'm going to pop mine back and forth 3 or 4 times. And really what it is, it's the foot of this mag release that's getting caught in the hole down there. So we go back and forth 3 or 4 times and we should be good. There we go. And when I say the little foot, we've got this little like weird shaped triangular piece. That's what grabs a hold of the side of the mag. Well, there's a recess in the frame where it goes and it will get hung sometimes. So there, now I should be nice and clear. And we're going to put our grips on for the second time. Screw those in. There we go. Whoop. You can shove it too far if the slide's not on. You can bypass the lock. So, oh, my dog is looking at squirrels through the back door, and she's sitting in there whining now. I need to train her and the squirrels to put a little sign outside that says I'm recording, so they'll both stop. So there's our slide lock. Go from the left side. Now see, this is what I'm talking about. I'm pushing down on the left side and it doesn't want to disengage over here because there's so much tension on it. That's why if I had the spring on the left side of this, when I push down, that spring helps the opposite side go down. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. So see, that spring is going to guarantee that we disconnect no matter what. So again, if you're left-handed, put that spring on the left side and there you go. So now that we got that on there, we got our mag release that's working just fine. Okay. So now we'll do the muzzle brake, and I'm going to go ahead and do the upgraded muzzle brake. It just slides on. We have to kind of clear out this hole because, you know, I try to clear these things out beforehand, but I'm not very good at it sometimes. Come on. Hang on, sorry. It's hard for me to reach out and do this. Of course, it's probably... Let me just throw that across the room for you guys. Let's see if I need to clean this one out too. Come on. There we go. You know, if I check these things before I'd start assembling, hey, you know what? If this is going to happen, this is perfect time for it to happen. Because if you guys go put it together and you're like, hey, why is this happening? Well, you know what? So this is not only an assembly video, it's a troubleshooting video. Let's take our slide back off again. Now what I'm looking at here is, let me go get my little cleaning tool real quick and I'll be right back. All right, thought I was losing my freaking mind there for a minute, but whatever. Anyways, that time I had to go put a stop to the dogs and the squirrels. They were literally sitting at the back door, right at the little window on the doormat, literally making fun of my dog. So anyways, we can make sure that these fit. Okay. Gonna make me lose my mind. I hear in there trying to go at it again. All right. So that one's, and probably most likely the reason that's probably tight is the seam down the side of the barrel. You know what? How about we just take, there's a seam line down the side of the barrel right there. And probably what I'll do is just go ahead and open up these barrel holes some more so that there is some boogies. You guys don't have to worry about them like this. There we go. Whatever. So barrel back in. Hey, look, we get to do that all over again. Anyways, so back where I was originally at, or actually I'm not back where I was originally at. We'll be in just a second though. Boy, I've been all over the place with trying to get four or five different models done all at the exact same time. And normally I try to limit it down to like working on one or two at once, but it's been a crazy week. Oh, and you know what? My brand new bottle of glue is probably sit there and dried shut because see, I didn't put the lid back on it the whole time. Anyway, so I'm going to put the muzzle brake on for the upgraded version. So if you notice, there's a Phillips screwdriver or a Phillips screw hole in the bottom down there. So I'm just going to take this and start screwing in. And if it stops abruptly, then you've hit the bottom of the, instead of the hole. But as long as you've got these muzzle brakes pushed back, that should be fine. Oh, that dog and those squirrels. So let's do a red dot and do the extended mag. And now we're going to take our breakdown lever and I'm just going to put, maybe if this isn't glued shut, I'm going to put a little bit around the edge. You know, I had someone comment on a couple videos back, assembly videos back, it's like, you need to be more professional in your videos and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, look, dude, I'm a singular human being. And if the fact that you guys want some like corporate blah, 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 then you're in the wrong place. I'm a dude doing this by myself. And that's the way I prefer it. And if that's not okay with some of y'all, then I don't know what to say. The last thing we need to do is blow this whole mess off. We need to put our little red dot lens in. And I hate doing these. One of these days I'll come up with a better way of doing this because I hate getting glue anywhere on my lens. On bigger lenses, what I'll do is I'll take this and peel back one side. And I'll peel back this other side. Now, if y'all have already peeled this off, you can do this with like a piece of Scotch tape or something. But I try to like make something to hold on to here, like that, so that I can take this and place this down in this opening right here. And that's all it does is it sits down in that opening. And we need to put some glue. Dadgummit. Now I just peeled my little handle off of there. Come on, come off. There we go. All right. So anyways, there's really not an easy way to do this. You can take some glue and put it like on a toothpick or something. Or if you have steady hands like me, I thought I'd put that out there for the smart ass comment people. Yeah, see, I done got some where I don't want it, but you know what? I'm the only person that's going to be looking down this red dot. Yeah. And I'm not going to put it in a bunch of places, just basically wiping it along the edge on two sides and place this down in there and hold a little pressure on it. And of course, you know, you'll do this after you paint. There we go. There, it's in. And then if y'all want a red dot, take you a, hey, I don't know if y'all can see that or not. Let's see on camera. Anyways, there's a red dot in there now. Put this off to the side. Clean all our stuff up, and of course our orange tip, and like I said, there'll be two different ones in y'all's kit, because if you notice, these two muzzle brakes are shaped different on the front, so I'm going to give you an orange tip for both. That way you can be compliant, and at the conventions and stuff like that, people won't give you a hard time. I'm not going to put mine on yet because I'm going to disassemble it and I'm going to paint. So that's all I have to say about that. But that is your requirement by law to put your orange tips on when you're done. So there we have it. Fully done. Working mag release, working slide. You want to John Wick it a little bit, you know, just do your little thing that way. But yeah, I thought that was kind of cool. I like his new version here. But anyways, there it is, guys. I hope y'all enjoy it. You know, it's comes with everything. So if you have any questions, comments, or anything, just let me know below the video, or go to the website, shoot me an email, any of that good stuff. I appreciate it, guys, and have a good one.